brand new year, 2023. And so maybe you had like a really great 2022 and you're hoping some of that kind of carries over. And maybe 2022 was kind of rough and you're hoping that a new year kind of turns the page for you. Um, but no matter how we've experienced the last year, it seems like a new year is always just a natural opportunity for us to kind of pause, to do some reflection, to kind of reset some things in life. It's a time when kind of culturally we start thinking about starting new habits, or maybe ending old habits, or just trying to get back on track after the holidays. I know, at least for me, I was telling somebody this week, I spent the last couple of weeks not really knowing what day it was, right? Like, because we traveled and then like we came back and wasn't sure what day it was then. And then, we moved our schedule around last week. So we had like church on Saturday and then Christmas was Sunday. And then I was off a couple days. It was just like, I have no idea. Friday was football day instead of Saturday. I had no clue what day it was until I pulled out my phone. I'm like, okay, today is, whatever day it was. And so it's a good chance for us to just kind of clear the deck, take a deep breath, and reset some things. And so I wondered if it wouldn't be a good opportunity for us as a community of faith to kind of explore what it means to meet Jesus afresh and anew. And so whether you are just exploring Christian faith, maybe that's one of the new things somebody's trying for the new year, or you're trying to get your faith back on track, or your faith is going strong, regardless of where you are in your relationship with Jesus, taking fresh eyes to who he is and what that relationship is all about is always a helpful opportunity. And it's 2023. Which means we have 2023 years roughly of history and tradition. And let's be real, not all of it is always positive. And so we may be coming into the new year with a little bit of baggage surrounding our faith. Maybe some of it's been there for a while and we've just not ever dealt with it. But there's all of this backlog of stuff that gets kind of stuck on to our faith. And it seems at times it's a little easier than we like it to be to lose track of trying to follow Jesus by trying to be a Christian, right? Like you get the difference between the two, right? Because there's those 2,000 years of history and tradition, and not all of it has always been positive. There's a lot of things that get stuck on to what it means for us to think about being a Christian that might have very little to do with following Jesus. And so sometimes it's good for us to just kind of pause and try to shake off some of those cobwebs and start to recognize that can be a difference, and that sometimes trying to, quote unquote, be a Christian can kind of keep us from understanding what it means to follow Jesus. Because being a Christian is oftentimes consumed with making sure you're following the right rules, you're doing the right things, you're not doing the wrong things. You see the world a certain way. You vote for the certain party or the certain platform or whatever, and you ultimately end up kind of despising, or at least quietly judging, all the right sort of people. So maybe sometimes it's good to pause and shake off some cobwebs of some things that have gotten stuck on to what it means to our idea of following Jesus. Now, because despite the mess that we have sometimes made as the church, as the people of God over the last 2023 years, Jesus always stands, simply saying, "Come, follow me." Now let's be clear. Let me make sure we're not missing the point here. Committing to the ways and words of Jesus will absolutely impact what you do and what you don't do. Committing to the ways and words of Jesus will absolutely impact the way that you see the world, your view of politics and people, but sometimes not in the way that we might have come to expect. And so, in a new year, with a clean slate, with a fresh start before us, let's spend the next few weeks and explore meeting Jesus again for the first time. And so as we do that over the next few weeks together, we're going to step into some moments in the New Testament when some people encountered Jesus and had to take a second or at times a third look at what it meant for them to engage with who Jesus was. And I think as we do that, we'll be able to get a renewed perspective of what it means for us at the beginning of a brand new year to follow Jesus afresh and anew. To get that conversation started today, I want to introduce you to a man named Nathanael. We meet him in the first gospel, or the first chapter of John's gospel. So if you want to go ahead and turn in your Bibles to John chapter 1, we'll get there in just a moment. John chapter 1. You can click on a device, open a Bible. We'll have it on the screen for you. If you're using YouVersion, all the teaching notes and things will be there in the events tab of the YouVersion app. So you can jot some things down along the way if that's helpful. But we meet Nathanael in the first chapter of John's gospel, and the other gospels don't mention him at all, which has led to the 2,000 years of history and tradition associating him with Bartholomew, one of Jesus's original 12 disciples. And so let's listen to what John tells us about Nathanael here in John chapter 1. We're going to begin in verse 43. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Jesus wrote about, and the one that Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nazareth? Can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. "Come and see," said Philip. And when Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said to him, "Here is a true Israelite in whom there is nothing false." "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you." Then Nathanael declared, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus said, "You believe because I told you, saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that." And then he added, "I tell you the truth. You shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." And so, as John opens his gospel, we find Jesus inviting people to come and follow him. He is assembling his first collection of disciples. Now, some of those disciples had already been following another teacher, a man named John the Baptist. We're going to jump into his story a little bit more in a couple of weeks. But some of these men had been following John the Baptist and his teachings, and Jesus and John points out that they should instead now be following Jesus. And so that's how they kind of get connected to Jesus and his mission. But on this occasion, we find that Jesus himself finds Philip and says, "Come, follow me." And Philip, who John tells us, like Peter and Andrew, is from the town of Bethsaida, gives us a really clear picture of what it means to follow Jesus. Because the first thing he does is to go and tell somebody else about Jesus. Right? Philip is invited by Jesus to come and follow him, and Philip is pumped, right? Like, he is excited, he is ecstatic. We have found the Messiah. We have found the one that Moses wrote about in the law, the one that the prophets foretold. And so, he goes to find his friend Nathanael. And in his excitement tells him that very thing. We found him. We found him, the Messiah, the one we've been waiting for. It's Jesus of Nazareth. And our first introduction to Nathanael is his response to Philip, which is, shall we say, a little less enthusiastic. His response is, oh my goodness, are you sure? His response is not, take me to him, we've been waiting so long. His response is, Nazareth? Seriously, Nazareth. Can anything good come from Nazareth? We're not sure exactly what prompts his response. The best we can tell is that it might be fueled by some regional rivalry. Uh, Nazareth isn't far from his town of Bethsaida, and it seems there's a natural sort of jealousy between the two. The only thing I can liken it to is like whatever town you grew up in, your view of the people who went to your rival high schools, like, the team that you always played in football, and it was like, you kind of just like looked down on them. Oh, yeah. For us, it was Danville High School. We lovingly referred to them as being from Dantucky. Those hillbillies from Dantucky, despite the fact that my high school was literally in the middle of a cornfield, they were the rednecks, right? Never mind that. But that's kind of the idea. That's kind of the energy that Nathanael is bringing to this moment. He's like, Nazareth? Seriously? And his Nazareth prejudice aside, I think his response is worth exploring for us. Because we might not share his prejudice against Nazareth, but I think we have all experienced or encountered the underlying issue that prompts Nathanael's response. Because ultimately, his issue is that he's disappointed. Philip comes to him and he is all jacked up. He's like, bro, we found the Messiah. Come with me. And Nathanael's like, okay, calm down, take a breath. Like, start again from the beginning. Tell me what's going on. And then Philip drops this Nazareth bomb. We found the one. It's Jesus. He's from Nazareth. And Nathanael's like, I'm out. Right? Because if this so-called Messiah is from Nazareth, either he's not the Messiah, or the Messiah isn't all we expected him to be. Because nothing good comes out of Nazareth. And I believe we get a first hint at what it means to meet Jesus again for the first time, what it means to meet Jesus by moving past the hype. And if we're going to start fresh with a clean slate, what it means to encounter and follow Jesus, we have to understand following Jesus will continually challenge your expectations. As you set out to follow Jesus, you gotta get this. Following Jesus will continually challenge your expectations. It doesn't matter what those expectations are. Following Jesus will continually challenge your expectations. Right? Let's process this scene a little bit further here. Philip comes to him and he says, we found the one. We have found the Messiah, which for everyone in the Jewish world of the first century, of the world of the New Testament, that is a loaded term. The idea of the Messiah, it was drenched in layers of expectation, in centuries of tradition and prophecy. Some of it spot on, some of it not so much. But it all had formed the expectations. It had shaped what Nathanael expected when someone told him, we have found the Messiah. So as we enter 2023, we have some similar loaded expectations, right? We have 20 centuries of tradition and prophetic expectation, and some of it is spot on. Some of it not so much. And those expectations can powerfully shape our understanding of Jesus. They powerfully shape what we expect from him. And I truly believe that a whole lot of folks have rejected Jesus, the idea of following Jesus, not because of what it actually means to follow Jesus, but because of the expectations that have been loaded on to the idea of following Jesus. Nathanael says, look, no, don't talk to me about a Messiah from Nazareth. That's not how this goes. And Philip's response, I think, is telling for us. He simply says, come and see. Just meet him for yourself before you decide, before you write him off. Just come and see. And for all the times that people have tried to argue other people to faith in Jesus, I think there is something powerful in Philip's invitation to Nathanael. Just come and see. Just get with Jesus and then decide. So Nathanael decides to go with Philip to meet Jesus. Now we don't know why. Maybe he's just trying to humor his friend. Maybe he says, "Oh, that's fair enough." We don't know what his motivation is, but he comes with Philip to meet Jesus. And when Jesus sees him approaching, he says, here is a true Israelite. There's nothing false in him. And John, by this point in the gospel, has already set us up to expect that we can trust Jesus. And now Jesus is taking the authority that John has already kind of put in his voice and lending some of it to Nathanael, which is important when we get to the end and what Nathanael says, how he ultimately responds to Jesus. Jesus says, here comes someone we can trust. Here comes someone in whom there is nothing false. And Nathanael wonders how Jesus knows anything about him. Jesus tells him, Nathanael, I saw you when you were under the fig tree, but before Philip came and approached you earlier today. Now that's information that Jesus cannot know. There's no way that Jesus knows that. The only person that knows where Nathanael was when Philip found him is Philip, and they just got here together. And we're not told why that pushes Nathanael's faith off the ledge, but it seems to. He becomes convinced. He had heard the hype from his friend Philip, and the hype seems to be true. And so he confesses what Philip had told him. We have found the one. The one that Moses wrote about in the law, the one that the prophets foretold. We have found the one, the Messiah. From Nazareth? Now it's Jesus' turn to respond in a way that's helpful for us, that's shaping for us if we will let it to be. Because Nathanael, upon hearing that Jesus saw him under the fig tree, he says, Rabbi, you are the Son of God, you are the King of Israel, you are the Messiah. And Jesus goes, just wait. Nathanael, my guy, just wait. If you stick with me, you will see more. You're impressed that I saw you while you were under the fig tree before Philip came and found you? Just wait. Jesus says you will see heaven opened, and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. Now in that moment, Jesus is talking about an echo from the Old Testament story. An echo from the life of a man named Jacob. If you were with us through the holiday season, hopefully he sounds familiar. That same Jacob that we spent the holidays with and his crazy family, when he's fleeing from his brother, he lays down one night in the desert and he has a dream of heaven, of a door in heaven being opened and a ladder with angels ascending and descending. And when Jacob wakes up, he names the place Bethel, the house of God. And in this moment, Jesus looks at Nathanael and he says, just wait. You will see the place where heaven meets earth. If you stick with me, you will see the house of God. This is way past the hype. This is Jesus as the place where heaven meets earth. Jesus says, Nathanael, this goes way beyond anything you expect. I think that's why it's powerful for us to pause, to reset, to reflect. That's why it's powerful for us to meet Jesus again for the first time, because there is more. Doesn't matter how long you have been following Jesus, how closely you have been following Jesus. I want you to hear there is more. I think sometimes we settle for being amazed that Jesus knows we're under the fig tree, when Jesus wants to show us the place where heaven meets earth. We sometimes go, oh wow, Jesus, that's really, you saw me this morning before Philip found me. You must be who he thinks you are. I think sometimes we are amazed by those sorts of things, and the whole time Jesus is going, just wait. Stick with me. You're going to see more. He says, if you will just follow me, Nathanael, you will be in awe. So let me ask you a question. As we enter 2023, are you in awe of Jesus? Not are you comfortable with what you believe about Jesus. Not are you convinced he is who he claims to be. Those things are well and good. But are you in awe of the Son of God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords? Because I think we can get so comfortable, so familiar with the ways that Jesus meets our expectations, that we forget there's more. See, to remain in awe of Jesus, simply trade familiarity If you want to stay in awe of Jesus, trade your familiarity for intimacy. Move past your expectations, move past the hype, and spend time with Jesus. He will show you there is more. I think I, I think the lived experience of following the ways and words of Jesus will back this up. Too often, the longer you know Jesus, the more apt you are to be less in awe of him. We simply grow familiar and comfortable and accustomed what we know we believe about Jesus. And he's saying, just wait. I want to show you more. I invite the band to come back. No. Close out our time and worship together. But as we start a new year together, I want to invite us to trade familiarity for intimacy. What might happen if, as a community of faith, we embraced some regular rhythms of prayer and scripture, ways to spend time with Jesus? What if together as a community of faith over the next 12 months, we committed to read the whole of the New Testament together, while also committing to pray for our mission as a church, for the vision that God is giving us for where he wants to lead us, for the ministries we have within our church? What if we committed to praying for the community that surrounds our church, for the district team that we are a part of? What might happen if, as the people of God, as a community of faith, we committed to trading familiarity for intimacy? Did you know that by reading just 5 chapters a week, so 1 chapter a day, 5 days a week, or about 15, 20 minutes if you're I'm going to sit down and get it all done at once kind of person, you can read the entirety of the New Testament over the course of 12 months. I don't know about you, that feels doable. Right? Sometimes somebody says, I'm going to read the New Testament. You go, oh, good luck. That's long. Have you seen how much there is? And it feels out of reach. So let's boil it down a little bit. 5 chapters a week. So I'm asked Silas to help me out here and distribute some things that will guide us through this year. Now, this is just for the month of January. Okay, we'll have a new one of these each month throughout 2023. The guide is pretty simple. It gives you a breakdown of what chapters you should read each week if you want to read 5 chapters a week, right? It starts off really easy. It's like, this week, Matthew 1 to 5. I'm good to go. Right after that, it starts to get a little bit more complicated the further you go, and it doesn't quite stay on the 5s as chapters break up differently. You'll have an opportunity to read 5 chapters a week. And then each week, there's a specific prayer focus, specific prayer emphasis for the week that we can commit to praying together. And there'll be a rhythm to it every month. 1 week, we will commit together to pray for the mission of the church to be and make disciples who make disciples. The next week, we'll commit to pray together for the vision of the church, this idea that we feel God calling us to equip the whole church to reach the whole community. We'll spend a week together praying for the ministries of our church, for our worship team, for our kids ministry, for students, for our leadership team. We'll spend a week praying together for different aspects of the community that surround us. And the rhythm will stay the same. Mission, Vision Ministries community month after month, but each month will have a different emphasis within that rhythm. And so that's where the guide comes in. No matter how long you've been following Jesus, no matter how closely you're following Jesus, whether you are exploring faith or you're plumbing the depths of what it means to follow the way of Jesus, there's always more. So in 2023, let's trade familiarity with Jesus for intimacy with Jesus. And let's try meeting Jesus again for the first time. Let me pray for us.